Hi, everybody. I'm John Kanary, and welcome to Breaking Through Limitations. You know, when you think about breaking through limitations, what comes to your mind? What barriers are you breaking? Would you be breaking through? Well, that would depend on just what it is you want and how much you actually want it. You know, there's hardly a day that goes by in my business, personal development, personal effectiveness, leadership, whatever, where I don't run into an individual in, say, a coaching situation, that as I start to speak to them about maybe some of the goals that they have in their life, they will immediately give me the reasons why they're not achieving those goals. And of course, the reasons have nothing to do with them. It's like where they maybe blame somebody else, or maybe they've been procrastinating for a period of time, or they criticize everything that may be wrong. But you know, it's interesting. One of the things I said to an individual just on Friday in a little breakfast meeting that I was having with this one individual in a coaching situation. So I said, have you ever considered that maybe the struggle that you're experiencing today, and of course, he had many, it just could be a signal that you're getting ready to make a major breakthrough in your life. You see, I took him back to a time in my own life. I took him back to a time where I was playing a little bit of fastball in the Toronto beaches. At that time, I was like everybody else on this team. We were living the 40-40 plan, 40 hours a week for 40 years, never having an original idea, or having an idea of how we could break through to have a much better life if we so desired. And I recall when we walked into a home after a practice one evening, and we're all chatting back and forth. And then there was one guy in that house that night who was listening to a small recording called The Strangest Secret in the World by Mr. Earl Nightingale. And I asked him, I said, well, what are you listening to? And he said, sit down and listen. And I did. And as I'm listening to this little recording, for a moment, I said, this has been made for me. And when he finished the recording, I asked him if he could play it again. That night, I listened to that recording 7 times. And finally, his name, Donnie McLean, he gave me that recording, and I took it home. I started listening to that little plastic recording time and time again, and then I started phoning to get more information with regard to that little recording. And I did get more information. As a matter of fact, where I got more information is the Nightingale Company sent me to see a distributor they had in Toronto at that time. And it was someone who also had listened to this Strangest Secret, and their life started to develop and started to change, and it has changed forever. And his name was Bob Proctor. And we've both found out one thing, is that we both loved the same thing. As we met, we talked, and at that time, he was just trying to get his life together with regard to the material. Well, you see, I want you to think about it this way. Think about you today. And think about that some of this material that you're going to hear, you'll be able to use this. If you will implement it, it will change your life. So I brought along a little friend here that has helped me out over the years. And I want you to take this and let it represent your life right now, today, exactly where you are in your life. And take the sand at the bottom of this glass here in this sand timer, and let that represent your past. That's last night, last year, the job you didn't get, the sale you didn't get. It could be in your relationship. There's all kinds of things in the bottom of this glass, which is your past, that we can't change. There's nothing we can do about the past. And then we go to the sand at the top of the glass. That's your future. Do you know there's not one person that knows for sure, for certain, just how much sand they have left? We don't know. It could stop running today, tomorrow, whenever. But there's sand running through the middle of the glass, and I'm going to ask you to let that represent the present. That's right now, the present. Do you know that anybody can determine what they're going to do with that sand in the middle of the glass that's running through? That's the present. And I'm going to ask you to do this. If you could just take, in these short messages that you're going to hear, with respect to John Kanary and breaking through limitations. If you will kind of like let go of the past, because there isn't a thing we can do with it. And we can focus on for a moment and ask ourselves this: do I expect increased good to come from my future? Because if you expect increased good to come from your future, that's thinking and living in the present. That's working with you and these principles right now. So as we start to get into this, as this being the first of many messages, I want you to look here with me, if you will, at the flip chart. And at the top of it here, you'll see a little star, and I'm going to ask you to let that represent what is called a goal that maybe you'd like to achieve. But I'm going to ask you to make it a 100-day goal. Work with me over this 100 days, 100 days with John Kanary, breaking through my limitations. Keep this in mind. Do you know that we all have limits, but the only limits that stop us from succeeding are the limits we impose on ourselves? And I can remember that day when I started somewhere around here. And this is where I wanted to be. I had set myself a goal, and it was interesting, the goal I set. I'm actually doing it right here with you today. That's the goal that I had set. In fact, since that time, I have designed, developed, and teach the top performer that you see on my desk here. I have designed and wrote a book called Breaking Through Limitations that help a lot of people. And the CDs and all the different MP3s that are available for people when they want to use them. But I want you to think that this is where you are, this is where you want to go. And you may have no idea on how you're going to do it, but you don't have to. You see, someone said to me one day, I know where I'm going because I'm always there. I know where I'm going because I'm always there. You see, we have people that are living here in the past trying to develop a future. We have people that are surrounded by conditions and circumstances when they also have the ability to focus on here. So I want you to think of what happens here as we start to move towards that goal, as we start to work with this each time and each lesson that we're going to work with. And as you start to move in that here particular direction, one of the first things that's going to happen is you're going to experience something called demands. What are the demands that you're dealing with today? Well, we could say you're dealing with the demand of, let's say time is a demand that you're dealing with now. Maybe there's a demand in your relationship. Maybe there's a financial demand that just keeps getting in the way in your life here. And we got all these demands that are being made on us. We're wondering, how does a person, a guy or a gal, I got a big family. How do I do this with all these demands that are in the way? Well, you can deal with the demands or you can deal with the solutions of those demands. But let's understand that where there are demands that are jumping in front of you, that means there's also a risk. Demands and risk present something that's called frustration. Now, I want you to think of these frustrations that we all experience, and there's basically only 4. And you want to understand something about frustration. Do you know that in frustration, there's also creativity? Do you know that frustration, when you get emotionally involved in something, that's a sign saying you can get emotionally involved, but what you want to get emotionally involved in is the objective, the goal, the idea, the vision that you want to achieve. Now think about this. The very first frustration is called your comfort zone. We all live in a comfort zone. Like right now, let's just say that we all live in this comfort zone and everything we want is outside the comfort zone that we're in. Everything that you and I want is outside of the comfort zone that we're in today. And I want you to understand something. At the end of the comfort zone is where life really begins. At the end of the comfort zone is where life really begins. And I know what keeps people in that comfort zone. If I were to go and suggest to you that the second frustration is what keeps us in the comfort zone, it's called rejection, where we feel that we're going to be rejected, or something is not going to work, or we're going to experience some kind of failure, whatever it might be. We allow that rejection to jump right in the way of what we do. They're the first two. And I recall many years ago, I think it was in St. Louis, where Jim Rohn was speaking. And Jim Rohn, he talked about comfort zones and he talked about rejection. And he said, give me an individual that will learn to manage that comfort zone, learn to manage that frustration. And I'll give you an individual that can write a check in any amount they want if they'll learn to do that. So the second one is rejection. And with rejection, what we're doing is we're turning our power over to someone else when we experience that rejection. The third major frustration is called relationships. Please understand this about relationships. If you want to really grow, succeed in life, is find a way to project a positive image of value and meaning on the lives of other people. And I promise you, they'll give you everything that you desire. There is no question about that. Relationships. And if you're going to build a strong relationship, you're not going to do it trying to get to their head. You're only going to do it if you can get to their heart. You see, our beliefs take place in our head, take place in that ego center of our being. But faith takes place in your heart. And when you kind of have faith in the relationships that you want to build, and you have faith in people, you awaken something in people, and believe me, they will always move in the direction of people who just seem to have the greatest amount of faith in them. And then number 4 is, of course, frustration with financial pressure. We seem to have tremendous frustration with financial pressure. And then I have people that tell me, well, money is really not that important to them. I'm always careful of people about that because they'll lie about a lot of other things. But think about this for just a moment when it comes to money. Money will just make you more of what you already are. If you're a good person, money will make you even a better person. If you're not a good person, it may not be a good idea to earn more money. But anyway, think about these demands and think about now these here risks. And the signal of a risk, it comes in the way of one of these frustrations. So I'm going to ask you to do this. I'm going to ask you now, I'm going to turn this off here in just a minute or two, and I'm going to ask you to take a look at those 4 major frustrations: comfort zones, rejection, relationships, financial pressure. And what is something you can do in just the next week? Something you're going to work on each day for the next week that will kind of put you in charge of the frustrations rather than the frustrations being in charge of you. You're going to make that change. Because just before you go here now, let me just give you an idea of what you should be focused on. You see, all of us, everybody who is just listening to this program right now, have exactly the same thing in common. And that is that we all want to take and improve the quality of our results. And I mean results in our health, in our happiness, and in our well-being, in our wealth. Think about this for a moment. Look at this word health. What are you doing in that area? Do you know that your reaction to those 4 frustrations is going to have something to do with how healthy a life that you live? Do you know the second one here, happiness? That your happiness is influenced to a large extent through those 4 major frustrations of what is called comfort zones. If you can't get out of your comfort zone, there isn't going to be any growth. No growth. But yet, we try, this is where our frustration comes from, is we're in this comfort zone and everything we want is outside of the comfort zone, and we're trying to pull things into the comfort zone when you've got to leave your comfort zone if you're ever going to change your comfort zone. So remember, the one thing that everybody has in common on this planet is that we all want a feeling of certainty. And the only person that can give you a feeling of certainty is you. And there's a lot of uncertainty on the way to developing certainty. But uncertainty just means you've left your comfort zone, which is a good sign. So what if we go back to that little star again and we say, this is what I want to achieve. This is the goal that I'm going to set for myself. In 100 days, I'm going to establish this goal. It could be a better job or to improve your job. It could be a better career or to improve that career. It could be to earn more money, to expand what you're earning at the present time. It could be to start your own company, whatever that might be. But in our next message, I'll be able to explain to you exactly how you can do that. But I want you to kind of like make notes, like get your journal out there and start writing down the things that happen to you each day and put down that one single thing that you do each day that's moving you in a positive direction. There'll be lots of things maybe that you don't agree with. There'll be things happen you don't even know why. But understand that one single positive thing that you're going to do, if you stay focused on it and write it in your journal every day, and let's see what we come up with. But here's what I want you to remember. If you look at these here, if you look at all of these, health, happiness, and wealth, look at wealth for a moment. You know, wealth is a consciousness. It's not a thing. It's not money. We use the term wealth, but really that's a wealth consciousness, and a wealth consciousness will attract everything of a like nature, whether it be money, health, or happiness, any one of those things. The consciousness of wealth is what brings more money into your life. In other words, that's a positive consciousness. It's like a feeling of well-being. It's a feeling of where, sure, we get uncomfortable at times, but we recognize that and we move beyond that discomfort into something that will give us comfort in terms of the goal we're moving towards. So think about this. The laws of life are create or disintegrate. You and I, we cannot stand still even if we wanted to. We're either getting better or we're going in the other direction. And please understand this. Your health has everything to do with your attitude. Think about this. Your health has everything to do with your attitude, because how healthy a mindset that we have is going to determine the choices that we make, which is going to make us happier or not, and is going to create that consciousness of wealth. So what is one thing you're going to do this week that's going to help you, that's going to help move you beyond the comfort zones that you may be in at the present time? In other words, the risk is worth it. The risk is worth it. So I'll see you in our next message, which will be in the next 10 days. Okay? So remember, Breaking Through Limitations with John Kanary. We'll be back with our next session in 10 days. Thank you.